afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As is customary, before we start with the interview, I would like to formally introduce Dr. Mazeni Alvi, today's guest, to this August gathering. Mazeni was born in Klang, Malaysia on 18th August 1959. His father served in the army and thereafter started farming and ran a small business. His mother was a homemaker. Eldest of 9 siblings, he did his primary schooling at his village and then went on to a residential school. In 1977, he moved to Brisbane for matriculation before joining the medical school at University of Queensland, Australia. Returning to Kuala Lumpur for internship, he was almost forced into adult cardiology, and later, on completing his training in Liverpool, he transitioned into pediatric cardiology. On his return to Malaysia, circumstances pushed him to assume charge of pediatric cardiac services in Kuala Lumpur. In 1992, when IJN was started, he was able to establish full-fledged units of pediatric cardiology and cardiac surgery, now known the world over for its great clinical work, training program, and research. Mazeni is happily married to Rohana, who recently retired as a school teacher. They are blessed with 6 children and 8 grandchildren. He was conferred a state award by the King of Malaysia in 2014 for his exemplary contribution to the field of medicine. Put your hands, ladies and gentlemen, together in welcoming Dr. Mazeni Alvi.
Okay, Mazeni. So, Mazeni, if it's okay, can we begin with maybe some stories from your childhood? And can I ask you what it was like growing up in a village with a large family? Do you feel you missed out on city life, the pleasure of a big city, or did you enjoy the village lifestyle?
Right. To be honest, because we rarely ventured out of the village except to visit relatives, so I was quite happy with village life actually. And my father, he missed out on a good education, so he wanted to make sure that we all did well academically. So I think that was my biggest memory of my childhood, because my father was extremely strict in trying to make me to be the role model for my siblings. So that's how things began with me academically, with my father.
And you're from a big family, you've got 8 siblings, is that correct?
Yes, 9 of us altogether.
9 altogether. And you're the eldest, so did you have a lot of responsibility as the eldest?
At that time, I suppose yes, because even though my mother is supposed to be a housewife, but she had to help my father at the farm. So then it fell on me to help look after the other kids when my mother and my father were away from the house. And that was in between schooling hours. So I did have to shoulder that part of responsibility.
So Mazeni, your primary schooling was in the village school, that was followed by boarding school, and then on to Australia for matriculation and the med school. So this must have been quite a big journey. So can you tell us something about this journey and how it influenced your future life?
Right, because I left home at the age of 12 to be in a boarding school, and it's not kind of boarding school for the elite. This is mainly for children from rural backgrounds who had no opportunities of a good schooling. So I had to learn to be independent from a very young age, and then from there move to Australia. So for the first maybe 15 years of my growing up, it was away from my family. So yes, in terms of something positive, I learned to be independent and to survive and to make major decisions on my own without my parental discussions or advice. But on the negative side, I missed my family in the sense that I did not interact with them very much. So my father only saw me maybe twice a year. So by the time I came back as an adult to work as a doctor, I had some awkwardness when talking to him, and that lasted until he died. So that is the negative part of it, which something that had to give when you have that kind of development in your early life.
So you have both pluses as well
Yes,
as minuses with this kind of background.
Yeah.
Now you must have had many options since you were a bright student. So what prompted you to take medicine?
Well, for a start, I was not really thinking of becoming a doctor, but basically because my family, there were no doctors, and I knew no doctors when I was young. So it's just that I thought I should be able to make it with my grades to do medicine, and I thought it was a good profession, so I took it up. But otherwise, I would have been happy to do anything else.
But was it your parents who had to play some role in deciding whether you will become a doctor, or it was your independent decision?
I suppose they did not really stress it on me to take up medicine, but I think they were happy that I took it up.
So, Mazeni, if I'm right in saying you started in adult cardiology,
Yeah.
so how did you make the transition from adult to pediatric cardiology, and did you find that difficult, or how did that all work out?
But actually, where in Malaysia, you really had no say what you wanted to do. I wanted to do pediatrics, but I was pushed into adult cardiology as a junior medical officer after internship. So I really had no choice, but then I began to like adult cardiology. But after a year, a doctor called Chan Kat Chen, who was trained in Edinburgh, came back, and I was asked to work with him as a junior doctor. And that was when my interest in pediatric cardiology started, really, because I was really amazed by his knowledge of what he taught me with regards to what is pediatric cardiology, which did not exist in Malaysia before that.
Would he have been one of your mentors then?
Certainly, yes, because he was a great communicator. He speaks very well, and he really impressed me with his knowledge and the way he speaks to patients, the way he deals with problems as well. Yeah.
So regarding mentors, and also particularly with your time in the UK, I know many of my former colleagues talk fondly about spending time with you in Liverpool and in the UK. Who inspired you when you went through training, and what are your memories of your mentors and people you worked with particularly in Liverpool, just from my interest?
Oh. But when I joined the Liverpool unit in 1988, it was Bob Arnold was the chief of cardiology at that time, and I was very impressed with him because he was such a quiet man, very soft-spoken, and yet when it comes to the cath lab, he is a sort of rather aggressive in his approach to things. Even though at that time the intervention was only limited to balloon dilations, but he ballooned paleostetrology with spells at that time, which nobody else were doing, I think. So I thought that was very impressive of him to be having that kind of quiet personality, at the same time aggressive in his approach to things.
Yeah.
Mazeni, you have achieved so much. You are so well accomplished. So many presentations, publications. You have gone on to establish one of the really great departments. If I were to ask you to state one single achievement of yours that makes you most proud.
Well, I would like to say that, not so much that I chose it from the start, but circumstances led me to do interventions in neonates and newborns. In the beginning, I did a bit of work on PIVS and later on ductal stenting. So I really took it up, studied morphology as well as how to approach things, and things developed not just from me, but I think I also learned from John Gibbs and also from Hausdorff in their publications how to approach things with regards to procedures and also their approach to something which is probably at that time unconventional.
Okay, now what I would like to do, I would like you to know what your colleagues have to say about you. Can I have the Videos, please. So, without your knowledge, we have managed to get some kind
cardiac
of
surgeon who has worked with Dr. Mazeni for the last 22 years. If you want me to describe Dr. Mazeni in one word, he's truly been a legend, not only as a pioneer in interventional cardiology in Malaysia, but also for the rest of the world.
As a surgeon, I think Dr. Mazeni is one of the best cardiologists to work with because he is very supportive of what we do. And you know that if there's something goes on wrong, he's always there to help you and to give you not even professional support, but moral support.
Dr. Mazeni has always been a very supportive person. When I first came in to IGN, I think he was one of the first person to say hi, and his smile has always been very comfortable. You know that he's not a person with an air of superiority. It's easy to connect with him. So I would say he's a very good boss.
Me, when I met Dr. Mazeni, the most striking thing is he's not just a boss and a mentor in terms of pediatric cardiology. He was like a father. He groomed us not only to be good pediatric cardiologists, but to be good people. He taught us about being the value of teamwork, the value of humility, the value of helping others, the value of teaching the next generation, and always achieving for more.
I'm sure that will probably make you feel really good.
Very touching too, Bharat.
So, Mazeni, you're up. I mean, that tells a lot about you. You're obviously a very busy man, a very busy person. How do you manage the work-life balance? And also, we have to ask you, how did you get your wrist injury?
My what?
Your hand injury?
Sorry. First, I have to tell you that I work as a farmer on weekends, so that is where it came from. I was trying to catch a cow. Right, about work-life balance. Well, I think, I made the right decision to marry Rohana. She's a school teacher who teaches in a school nearby our house. So I was busy at the hospital, and she has more time than me to take care of the home and the children. So I think that helped to have a very stable kind of relationship. I wouldn't say that I work extremely long hours just like anybody else, but the point is that I don't go away for long periods of time. I think that helped too. So even if I come back late, it's always I'm at home at night. So that I think that helps.
Mazeni, now we are going to have what we call as rapid fire round to know you in nutshell. Okay? So here it starts. Your favorite sport?
Hockey.
Your favorite sportsman?
I would say Imran Khan.
Your favorite movie?
The Godfather.
And the movie star?
Robert De Niro.
Tell us one thing about you that people will be surprised to learn.
Well, I can be impatient.
You don't look like.
Yeah, I don't look like, but I think, yeah.
What is your favorite recreation?
Farming. There's reading and farming.
Favorite city?
I would say Granada in Spain.
Oh. Favorite cuisine?
Italian.
How would you describe yourself in one sentence?
I'm too shy a person, which I shouldn't have been. That is my main weakness, I think.
And lastly, the most important question. Who is the boss in your house?
Me.
Okay.
And now it's my granddaughter.
I hope you have the permission of your wife to say so.
I don't know.
So, Mazeni, you've had an illustrious career. You're well known to many of us. So, you've obviously had a lot of successes, but would you be able to tell us what instances in your career you see as major setbacks?
Right. I think in our field, especially when we do interventions in young children, young patients, there will be complications. So I've had a few that gave me sleepless nights for weeks whenever I have a major one. So one example I can give is in a young child back in the 1990s where I had an avulsion of the iliac arteries following balloon dilation or aortic stenosis that led to death. So that really hit me up really bad.
Yeah.
But there are other complications. For example, when you do PDA stenting, things happen like thrombosis, which occur acutely, and you have to deal with it. So those are things that lead to more complications, and that really hit me back really badly.
So like all of us, you also have sleepless nights.
Oh, definitely.
Okay, so if I were to give you a choice and take you back 57 or 58 years, would you like to do anything differently if you were to live your or relive your life, or you would say just ditto?
I suppose I'm quite happy with what I've done, and I will probably continue doing it for a few more years. But I think one thing that I missed was that I did not go through a proper fellowship program. I would have liked to spend 1 or 2 years at least in basic science research, which I didn't have the opportunity because of the circumstances. But if I had that chance to go back in time, probably I would like to have done that. I think it's a good way to round up our career as doctors.
I'm sure there'll be a lot of impatient fellows out there that's useful advice for people who want to rush into an attending career. I think it's good advice to take the time and do the training, and I'm sure people will be interested to hear that. So apart from keeping working for more years, what are your plans for the future? What do you hope to do in the next 5 to 10 years?
I'll be retiring officially by August because I'll be 60. But probably I'll continue for a few more years on a contract basis because I think I can still manage to work at the current pace. But I like farming, so I will have no problems even if I don't have a job next year. But then again, farming is a tough job, so you need to be physically strong and fit. So that can't last for the next 10 years, though. So I have to think of something else. I like reading, so I think I can do that for many more years. Yeah.
And lastly, Mazeni, what would be your advice for the future generation? There are so many young interventionists. What would you tell them?
Right. I think now things are more or less set in terms of curriculum, regulatory things for you to be certified, not like in the past. So, and I think what is also limiting is that there are so many things to learn over, say, 4 years. Not like in the past, it's just balloon dilation, ASD closure, PDA closure. But now there's so many things that you need to learn and to master the procedures. And what has happened also is that I think with things like CSI and PICS and the Vietnam meetings, we can learn a lot over a short period, at least in terms of from the knowledge point of view, and also learning what you might want also to translate that in your work in the cath lab. So to complement that, what is also important, I think, is to work in a busy place. You have to be busy for at least 4 or 5 years to learn as much as you can, pick up the experience and maturity in terms of making judgments. And I think to do that, the best is if you can go to a place where you can gain that, all that, plus also to have good mentors. I think that is important.
Thank you, Mazeni. On behalf of the Board of Directors of the CSI, we wish to thank you for fielding a volley of questions so very candidly. We would also like to wish you a very long, productive, healthy, and happy life. May you continue to succeed with your mission of training young minds in the years to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bharat. Thank you, Bharat.
May I request host and Mario to come on the dais to Dr. Mazeni Alvi.